Hello and welcome back to the New Dig Norfolk Gardener channel. Now, we live in the county of Norfolk and we live midway between the fine city of Norwich and the coastal town of Great Yarmouth, and we garden in zone 9A. Now, this is the third video in the series of the New Dig greenhouse and polytunnel. In part one you saw us prepare the greenhouse and the polytunnel ready to receive its plantings. In the second video we actually got things planted, and today we're going to look at the general maintenance of the plants. Now, things like tomatoes and aubergines, cucumbers, peppers, things that grow in the greenhouse, they're not difficult to grow, but they do require a certain amount of maintenance. And I know that many of you out there, you've been asking me questions, so I know the types of questions you've been asking me, and hopefully we will answer those today. So if you are new to gardening and you want some handy tips and advice on what to do with these types of plants, whether you're growing them in the greenhouse, polytunnel or outdoor, then don't forget to subscribe to the channel. There's a red button just below there. All you have to do is click it and you'll be notified exactly as and when we upload a video. Now, what I have done, I have let some of these tomatoes, well in fact all of them, I haven't really been in here the last week or so because we knew that we were going to be doing this video just so that we can show you exactly what happens if you don't do the maintenance. Now, tomatoes, they will keep making things what we call side shoots, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with them except that those side shoots will produce even more trusses, which puts more pressure on the plant to produce, so your fruits tend to become a little bit smaller. And with the sort of climate that we live in here in the UK, you'll struggle to get all those tomatoes to actually turn red and become ripe. So we just want to concentrate on the trusses that are going to be on the main stem, and that's the main reason really why you side shoot. So if I go over to this plant here, you can see that this is the main stem. This is the leaf that's coming out, and then in between that, this V, this is a side shoot. This is something we don't want because it will eventually get really big, develop its own trusses and develop its own fruit. So all we do is take that out into the bucket. The leader is quite easily to spot. There'll be some leaves just above where you can see these are now going to form flowers, and when that gets up to here it will then produce another stalk and a side shoot. And you need to go all over the plant to ensure that they're not there. So here's one here which has got quite large. Now this is really interesting. If any of you guys have actually tuned into Steve's videos at Green Side Up, he actually uses these side stems to produce free plants, and it actually works because I've watched his videos, so it's really interesting. Now, we don't need to do that. We have a limited amount of space. This is not a huge greenhouse, so I don't really need any more plants. But you know, if you've got a large allotment and you've got a big polytunnel and you want some free plants, then go watch Steve's video because it's really interesting how they work. So again, we want to take this off. This is not being helpful to the plant. You can see that's almost already a tomato plant, and in turn of course it will also get its own side shoots. Hello Poppy. Yes, people have been very kind. They've all been asking how you are and if you're okay, and they're all really pleased that you're much better, just like we are. So just go through the whole plant, and if you find any side shoots, take them out. I think that's about it for that one. So if you're growing yours up strings like ours, then you need to twist the plant around the string, avoiding the stalks that are coming off, so that you don't break them. They are quite flexible, the plants. There you are, see the plant is now back upright, unlike this one next door, which I still need to do this to, which is starting to lean over. So the string method really does work, and it saves you having to buy canes. Now you can see that on many of these tomatoes it's the 12th of June today, so these plants went into the ground in this greenhouse about a month ago. And you can see they're already producing fruit. This is our variety red cherry, and that generally does produce a bit earlier than something like the Moneymaker, but also the Marzano, the San Marzano. They're more of a plum tomatoes, so they tend to be more elongated. And in exactly the same way as you do any other tomato, you need to be taking out these side shoots. So I'm going to get on with that job, and then when we come back we shall have a look at the aubergines. Now we've been round the tomatoes. You can see they've all been wound around the strings and all the side shooting has been done. So next we're going to move on to the aubergines. Now I know there was one or two of you that were growing along with us, and hopefully your aubergines are something like ours. But again, like the tomatoes, aubergines are part of the potato family. And actually, if you look at the little flowers on them, they look like potato flowers. And just like the tomatoes, what you need to be looking for now is the side shoots. And again, you've got the main stem, the leaf coming out, and all you want to do is to take that side shoot away. Now some of these side shoots, when you do find them, will have flowers on them. But don't worry about that. Just keep side shooting away so that you don't get too many leaders. Now aubergines will keep producing side shoots just like tomatoes, and they will eventually become stems that will bear fruit. But again, like tomatoes, you know, it puts a lot of pressure on the plant and you'll struggle to get them all. Hello Poppy. You'll struggle to get them all to come to good sized fruit. So there's another side shoot there. Let's have him out. Now you can see that here the stem is actually moving into a V shape, and what you want is no more than 2 stems. So anything that's now producing above here, this is another side shoot, yeah, we don't want that to carry on. And we just want to keep these 2 main stems. And as these grow up, and probably sometime around August time, they'll be up here somewhere. And then we can keep producing, hopefully, fruit. Now also down the bottom of the plant, you don't really need all of this that's growing away, so take that away. It only encourages pests and disease that can get onto the plant. So just keep the bottom of the stem nice and tidy. Here's another side shoot here, and another here. And what this will produce like this and suddenly shoot out here if we allow it to grow. And as I say, we don't really want that to happen. We've got our 2 main stems now, and that is enough for us. There's another one here. There's another one here. So really it's not so different to producing tomatoes. Another one here, look. And then what you will do, you'll start to create airspace between the plant so that the fruits can develop. Mildew won't develop, because that's something that can happen within the greenhouse, and you also get that with cucumbers. which is something you really don't want. Here's another side shoot here. And so now that plant is perfectly healthy. You can see its flower here. That should produce us a nice aubergine. And as this grows up here, as I say, we'll get more and more fruit that will develop, and hopefully lots of fruit over the growing season. But like I say, as with tomatoes, just keep taking the side shoots out. Let 2 stems develop, and that's enough. That'll be enough for that plant to produce you fruit over this growing season. Now the aubergines have been tidied up, side shooted, and been wound around their strings so that they can continue to grow up. So next we want to look at cucumber. Now, depending on what variety of cucumber that you're growing, will depend on what you actually need to do with your cucumber. Now, we grow a variety called Passandra, and that's an F1 variety that only produces female flowers. So that means every flower it produces should, in theory, have a cucumber behind it. But if you're growing a variety where you have male and female flowers, what you do need to do is to take the male flowers away. And you can easily tell that because there won't be a cucumber behind it. With the female ones, you'll see there's a slight swelling behind it, a bit like squash really, because they produce male and female flowers too. So by leaving those male flowers on there, what tends to happen is it makes the fruits a little bit bitter than what you really want. So that's why you have to go around and take the male flowers off. But for us, we don't need to do that. But for all cucumbers, what you do want to be able to do is to ensure the plant grows and doesn't get too big, too bushy. So just like the tomatoes and the aubergines, you need to do a bit of side shooting. Because if the plants get too big and overcrowded, there's no airflow, and cucumbers are really susceptible to mildew. And you'll know when you've got that because the leaves will go really white, and it stunts the growth of what's happening. So if we go down to our cucumber here, as I said, these are all female flowers, and you can see here's a flower here, and there's a cucumber behind it. So we know we're going to get a cucumber there. And there are 1 or 2 about. Here's another one here. There's the flower, and there's the cucumber behind it. So like I say, if you're growing a variety where you get male and female flowers, you're looking for this. This is the female flower, and it will have a swelling behind it, which is where the cucumber is going to come. However, you can see here that just like the tomatoes and the aubergines we were looking at, there's a side shoot coming out here, and that will grow really big and try to go up here, and there'll be a lot less airflow between the plant, and then that's when you get a few problems. So just like the tomatoes and the aubergines, just take that away. And that will stop that growing. And then your main leader can continue to wind its way up here, which means that when it does flower, there's plenty of air circulation all between your cucumbers and your plants. Now, you very often hear me say on my videos that in our main vegetable beds that we don't give any feed to those whatsoever, and that's true. All they get is their 1-inch layer of compost each year, and that is feeding our soil, which in turn feeds our plants, and there's enough goodness there to be able to at least do 2 plantings a year, and in some cases we manage to get 3 plantings in. But certainly 2 plantings a year, and they grow very well indeed. But for the greenhouse and these plants we have in here, what we do is we give them a feed. Now some people use things like Tomerite and tomato feed, things like that. That's fine. It costs you money. But what we do, we use an organic natural feed, which is comfrey feed. We have a comfrey bush over by our stumpery, and every year we harvest those stems and leaves and we make our own comfrey feed. Now it's full of potassium once you make that, which is ideal for these kind of vegetables that need the flowers to produce and then to help the fruit produce. Now I'm pretty sure that these would produce very well even if we didn't give this feed. But it's something we've always done, and as I say, it is organic and it is natural. When you think within a greenhouse or a polytunnel environment, things are packed in quite tightly and there's a lot of nutrients that are being taken out of the ground. So if you can give them that little extra boost with a natural organic feed, why not? Now here's my watering can. And this is some comfrey feed that we made last year. This is a 10-litre watering can, and what you want to do is to put 1 part comfrey feed to 10 parts water. That's the strength you want to be giving it. We managed to make plenty of this over the year, and essentially in a bottle like this, so in that can each third is what we actually add to that watering can to feed these plants, and it just helps the flowers produce, as I say, and then in turn for the fruits to produce. And all as we do is give them a nice little drink. And if you haven't tried growing your own comfrey patch, we should be making a video a little bit later on. We'll show you our comfrey patch that we've got, and it will give you a free source of feed for these plants. So instead of you paying out for things like Tomerite and things like that, you'll be able to make your own feed. And this will feed all of these plants in here. You can give it to the peppers, the tomatoes, the aubergines, the cucumber, and of course flowers. Any flowers that you have, they're really good for those too, and helps bring the flowers on. As I say, it's full of potassium. And as I say, we shall make that video and show you exactly how we do it and how we make our own comfrey feed. And if you so wish to, you can follow along with us, make your own, and have some free feed for your own plants. And here we are in the polytunnel, and as you can see, we've got our tomatoes here. We need to do the same things, so do any side shooting that needs to be done. There's one here, there's 1 or 2 that need to be done, and then these need to be tied to the canes, so that's a job we just need to be done. They'll be loosely tied. You can see they've been done at the bottom, but now this needs to come back to here just to hold that plant up right. Now the cucamelon in the corner, we just allow that to scramble anywhere it wants, and we'll show you the cucamelons as they start to appear. They shouldn't be too long. I think there's some flower buds now starting to indeed form on there. And then with your peppers, as I alluded to before, you want these to bush out because it will give you more fruit. So once they get to sort of this sort of height, which is sort of 8 to 9 inches, then just pinch the top out, and then that will make that plant then bush, which will give you more fruits and a bigger harvest. So things are pretty similar. It depends on whether you're using canes or whether you use a string system that we have in the greenhouse as to how you manage your tomatoes. But what they all have in common is a little bit of pinching out of side shoots. In the case of the peppers, their tops, so that it makes them then bush rather than just grow a very long stem. Now all that leaves us to do then is we have some Lolla Rossa here that we planted probably about 4 weeks ago. They're ready to go in. We're going to plant some of those, interplant some of those between the tomatoes. And then outside here you can see the basil that we planted a few weeks back. They're actually ready to go into the ground now, and they will be interplanted between the tomatoes and the cucumbers and the aubergines and the peppers and chilies. Now basil is one of those things, actually when I just ran my hand over there, the smell is amazing. Basil is one of those things that not only does it grow really well with tomatoes in the greenhouse, but it also eats really well with the tomatoes. And a bit later on this year, when we're able to start pinching the tops out and harvesting our tomatoes, we should be making lots of tomato sauces for things like pizzas. And you've already seen in there that we grow a variety called San Marzano. That's a great tomato to use when you're making your tomato sauces because it has less seeds in than your normal eating tomato. And that's why we grow it. And so yeah, we'll be making lots of pasta sauces and tomato sauces for all the things that we want to use in our cooking. So that's it for part 3 of the No Dig greenhouse and polytunnel. There shall be a part 4. Part 4 will be one of the most enjoyable parts because it's when it comes time to harvest. So don't forget, keep on top of your plants, keep the side shooting going. It's a bit like being disciplined with the weeds. When you see a weed, you pull it. Every time you walk in your greenhouse, just inspect the plant, you see a side shoot, take it away. And you shall have a successful harvest. We shall see you on the next video.